there's just an error, it just has page. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Oh, I was just noting just the page thing on there. So under the top paragraph. So it's not a change to the agenda, it was just an edit. Sorry.
Mr. Eve, I saw that too, but then I realized that the page numbers further down, so it's a header for,
Oh,
so,
my apologies.
yeah, I had to look at that as well.
Okay. All right, then I have no issue.
Right, Councillor Dean? Regular council meeting minutes, anything of discussion there? If not, if we can get a motion, Councillor St. Martin?
Mr. Reeve, I noted in the minutes that in the header, it says with the following members present. We already have that outlined in the minutes, who's present, who's absent, and who's in attendance. So I'm wondering if that should be removed from the header.
If I may just first, which page are we talking on this
Page 1,
page?
it's duplicative.
Sorry, I'm struggling to see this duplication. It says present and it has all of council, absent, and then it has staff, but I don't see it twice. Oh, the word present instead of members, okay, fair enough.
In the header.
Yes, then we could delete the word present in bold with the semicolon.
Okay. So make a motion then to amend the minutes?
I'll move that council adopt the regular council meeting minutes of March 26, 2026 as presented.
It's presented or amended?
Amended.
Okay, thank you. Motion on the floor, call the question, all in favor? That's moved. And we have a 9:35 delegation. If you guys remember, 2 minutes early, but we can get you up and get you going if you'd like. The Chamber of Commerce. See you guys again this morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning, everyone. Thank you guys for having us today. We appreciate it. On behalf of the Whitecourt District Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to thank Woodlands County for your continued support. Whether that's through funding, attending our events, or engaging with our business community, we truly appreciate the partnership.
So to start with a quick snapshot, we're gonna give you an overview of last year and some things coming up this year. So we ended 2025 with 231 members and an 86% retention rate, and we welcomed over 20 new members last year. We're also seeing really strong engagement at our member mixers. They're now consistently drawing 45 plus attendees, which tells us businesses are looking to connect, collaborate, and stay involved. And importantly, our membership spans Whitecourt, Woodlands County, and the surrounding regions. So the work we do has a broader regional impact.
Over the past year, we've had the opportunity to attend a number of ribbon cuttings, grand openings, which are always exciting. And it's a good way for the new business to feel welcomed into the communities. It's encouraged to see continued investment and new businesses opening in our region. It speaks to the resilience and potential of our local economy.
We were also successful in securing $30,000 in grant funding last year, which helped us deliver programs and events that support local businesses. A few highlights: our Shop Local Buy Canadian initiative that was in partnership with Woodlands County and the town of Marithorpe saw 28 businesses participate across Whitecourt, Woodlands County, and Marithorpe.
I'm gonna touch on a bit of our advocacy that we've been working on. If you were at our mixer yesterday. Some of it might be a little repetitive, but some of our key focuses are at the national level. We attended the Canadian Chamber of Commerce AGM, where Alberta successfully passed all 14 policy resolutions that were brought forward. We had a really good attendance at that event. For the provincial level, we are also actively involved. This year, we've co-sponsored 3 policy resolutions going to the Alberta Chamber AGM, which we were asked to host this year, so that's at the end of May. A couple of the policies that we co-sponsored were strengthening economic competitiveness in rural and secondary communities, implementing an emergency economic recovery program for natural disasters and evacuations, and addressing the increase in urban and rural crime through additional resources. Some of our local advocacy we're focusing on is, of course, crime and safety, supporting major projects in our region, including the SMR facilities, and continuing to strengthen the connection between businesses and the community.
So for our events are a big part of what we do, not just for the chamber, but for driving economic activity and bringing people into the region. Across the board, we've seen increased attendance, sponsorship, and participation. Some quick highlights: our President's Gala had 181 attendees and recognized 97 businesses. So the carnival continues to be our strongest return on investment. The trade fair brought in approximately 2,500 people and over 60 vendors. Our economic forum returned after a 1-year break with 130 attendees, which was the highest it's ever had. And community events like Trunk or Treat and the Santa Claus Parade continue to see strong participation.
I'm going to touch on our Fresh Community Market. It's our farmers market that we host. Last year was the final year of our 3-year pilot project for our Saturday markets. While attendance remained strong, vendor participation declined. So this year we've shifted to a new approach. We're going to do 1 monthly night market, and they're hosted on Thursdays, yeah, mostly Thursdays. We'll also have 2 special event markets during Canada Day and the Rib Fest. Our goal is to rebuild vendor interest, and hopefully we can grow back to weekly markets again.
So looking ahead to 2026, we have a full and exciting year ahead with the carnival and the trade fair coming up in May, and then as she mentioned, we were chosen to host the Alberta Chambers of Commerce AGM where Reeve Cush will be speaking. Our golf tournament is coming up in June, so we hope to see some of you guys there. And Rib Fest is coming back in August, which is a big one for us this year. With Rib Fest, we're taking over full responsibility for the event, everything from entertainment to logistics. And the goal is to make it a regional draw, bringing visitors from across Alberta who will stay in local hotels and campgrounds and explore both Whitecourt and Woodlands County. And then in the fall, we'll have our economic forum again in October, and along with our other seasonal events like Trunk or Treat, the Santa Claus Parade, and Christmases for Kids.
This part is sort of an ask. When we were doing our strategic planning, Woodlands County was brought up. So we want to really strengthen our relationships. One of the key priorities that came up at our strat plan was strengthening our relationships with municipal partners, especially Woodlands County. We'd really like to build more consistent communication and collaboration. One idea we had was to have for Woodlands County to send a representative to our board meetings quarterly. This could be a member of council or administration. We'll set the dates in advance, and we'll also have the representative from the town there as well. The goal would be to share updates both ways, identify opportunities to work together, and give you a better sense of what we're working on throughout the year. Of course, they'd be welcome to stay for the entire meeting. We'd also be very interested in having a chamber board member participate on the Woodlands County economic development to ensure that there is strong alignment and communication between our organizations. We do have a representative who is a Woodlands County resident, if that is one of your guys' requirements. We believe these steps will help strengthen collaboration and ensure we're working together to support businesses across our entire region.
So just in closing, at the end of the day, we see the chamber as a regional organization and we want to ensure Woodlands County is well represented in the work we do. We truly value your partnership and support and we really welcome your feedback on how you'd like to see us working together moving forward and how we can better showcase Woodlands County through our events and initiatives. So thank you guys again for your time and we appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thanks.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I do know our last council, our meeting rotations conflicted a lot with the chamber meetings, which made it very difficult to attend. But our meetings are on different days now, it makes it a lot easier for us to be able to attend a lot more of the events and stuff, cause we're not sitting in this chamber when they're going on, so. I do need to be doing a little bit more and, being present, and I think with our new rotation, it'll definitely make it easier. Open up to any other questions, comments from council here? Councilor Dean?
Through the chair, thanks very much for the presentation. I just want to clarify the ask for attendance at the board meetings is quarterly?
Yeah.
And is there a difference between the monthly,
Mixers?
and the board meeting?
Well, mixers are open to our members. The board meeting would just be within the board
Okay.
and we could have more intimate conversation and
Okay,
more planning that way.
so that format has changed a little bit. It used to be that when we'd get together in various places, there would actually be a board meeting that would take place at the same time.
So I think like for instance, yesterday we had a member meeting that we had at 11:30. So our member meetings are once a month. And there's sometimes mixers or meetings. So that would be that, but our board meetings are the first Wednesday of every month.
Okay,
So
thank you.
yeah, and we'll give you guys an update and yeah.
Councilor Coogan?
Yes, through the chair too. I really appreciate the fact that you guys are putting some energy into that fresh community market because on the ag side, I think Woodlands County has a lot to contribute there. I do know some young people that are interested in getting into some of that stuff. And I really appreciate the fact that the chamber has some youth driving it now because I think it's going to be a bit of a directional change. So I would be very interested in doing some work there.
We appreciate that. It was our pilot project, so to have for us just not to kibosh it, we went a different avenue and it's because we did a night market last year and it was a huge success. Cause really, we're just trying to attract vendors, give the community what they want, yeah. So we appreciate your support.
We do have a youth starter stands meeting coming up for youth to attend, so I can send that to you if you're interested in that and get it out to some people.
Councilor McNeil?
Thank you through the read to the chamber. I really appreciate the presentation and especially want to commend the chamber on the work the last couple of years in really increasing membership and I've really seen a shift in the chamber and what an important player it's always been important, but now it's just even more been in the forefront with the business community and creating that collaborative connection for the municipalities as well as the businesses. So that part definitely great. I know in regards to the asks, my position with council is I appreciate the ask of having the board, the person attend the board meetings quarterly. I think that could be very valuable and have the information come back. And on the representative for the committees, it is on our schedule this year to redo the terms of reference for our committees of council. So I think that would be a discussion that would then come back to council at that time. And so it's not something council would be able to answer today, yes or no, so, because it would involve a change of our terms of reference.
Do you know roughly when that's going to be?
Our next organizational meeting where anything would take place would be in October.
October, okay. Perfect, yeah.
Okay, and just one other thing I wanted to add was as well, I had seen a real effort with the chamber to involve Woodlands County businesses and interact with them and even, things, they showcased Woodlands County businesses in some of the events that we've been doing as far as, or that the chamber was doing, like with catering and stuff like that. So it's been a real win, I think, for Woodlands County to be able to get all the extra advertising that is tied to the chamber and really get exposure for our small businesses. So I just kind of wanted to throw that in there.
You know, I'm glad you noticed, and a lot of people actually don't realize how big Woodlands County is and that we do represent them. So when we do get caterers, for instance, from Port Assiniboine or someone, some people are like, well, why aren't you using local? Well, no, we're regional, so
They are
we are,
local.
they are local, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else from council? I'd like to thank you guys again very much for your presentation. I know that again with the council meeting change or date changes and stuff we have, it'll be a lot easier for us to be a lot more present, and I'm sure we'll have a good discussion we get on our terms of reference on our organizations for what we can do to get a little more feedback from you guys, so.
We appreciate that.
Right.
Thank you guys.
With that, if I can get a motion to accept the presentation, Councillor McNeil.
Sure, I'll move the council receive for information the annual update presentation from Alicia Caillou and manager of the Whitecourt and District Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. Discussion of the motion? I'm not seeing any. Call the question. All in favor? Yes, ma'am. All right, have a great day.
You too.
Moves us 7.1, policy HR -7.004, new employee orientation. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, everyone. So at the GNP meeting, there was some direction to bring one of these policies back to council. The new employee orientation. With a change made in the policy and put it in the new format, which is attached in your package. What we are asking though is if we can defer adoption of that and send it back to GNP to make some more changes. Certainly to align with more current practice, align with the privacy legislation before we adopt this one going forward.
Thank you. Questions, comments from council? Councillor Dean?
Yeah, through the chair, thank you to administration. This was a bit of a miss, I think, on council. We just missed the items that are non-current and needed to be addressed, so thanks for bringing it forward.
Thank you. Councillor McNeil?
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you. I just had a question. In the current policy, it mentions the oath of secrecy is replaced. And I'm just wondering, is there still a document that is a confidentiality document? Like you mentioned, that one was redundant now, so.
So in the employment agreement, we add confidentiality, we put that in there. So as part of the initial employment contract, it's included in there, not as a separate document.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
I want to make a motion then to defer this so we can get Councillor St. Martin.
Excuse me. Before the document comes back to council, can you please change the document owner to council?
Sorry, I didn't catch that. What was the?
In the draft policy that's before us, the document owner is human resources. And I'd like that changed to council.
Okay. Oh. Mr. Ferris?
We can make that change. All of the policies that have been adopted, whether they're HR or otherwise, do have a department that is responsible for keeping them updated. That's the intent of that section. All the other ones reference a department, but we can put council there if that's what council would like. It just from a consistency point of view, our finance ones say finance or infrastructure, so just to be clear on that.
Wait, just checking then with Councillor St. Martin, is it still the intent to change that to council? It'll make this out of the realm of all of the other ones.
So Mr. Reeve, we've had some discussion on this, and I think we need to make it very clear. The policies are, the policy numbers reflect the departments. So your policy number is HR 7.004. If you look at our old policies, it would state in there the approval. We don't have that anymore. So if the new policy wants to be changed to put in the approval section, being county council, then that would flow through. But right now, the current policies don't reflect that.
Councillor Dean, you had a hand up?
Yeah, through the chair, again, thanks for catching that. I think everybody understands the intent, that council is ultimately responsible for approving policies. The change that you made, would work, and I'm fine with that. Another thing, a potential change or, option under document owners, we change that to council, and then just right underneath that in the gray section, we could put department and put human resources there, so. But it would mean changing the format on all of the policies coming forward, and then we'd have to revise all of the ones that we've approved as well, right?
Correct.
And so I understand where you're going for it and support that, but we're gonna have to bring them all back then, I guess, and just make that one change.
Yes.
Okay, any other discussion before we make a motion? No, anybody willing to make a motion to defer with the changes? Councillor McNeil?
I'll go ahead. I will move that council defer the new employee orientation policy and change the document owner to council and add a department owner in the header and bring back those amendments to a future GMP meeting.
Thank you, Councillor.
Okay.
Discussion on that, Councillor St. Martin?
Just a friendly amendment in the motion, you said to add a document owner. Is it document owner or department?
My apologies, to state the document owner as council and to add a department in the area below.
Administration understand the intent of the,
Through the chair,
Mr. Ferris.
understand the intent of the motion. I would say it does leave the direction on how we amend this policy up in the air. We have a motion right now to bring this back with the one change. The word pension to benefits, we flagged multiple other issues. We've also identified within there the value of having some of those things and whether it's inappropriate or not. And there's also the idea of whether those aspects of requirements are better addressed in a procedure. So we'll be bringing this back, but there won't be an improvement on it next time you see it. It will be the same document with the exception of these two changes unless we get some direction. So I just want that clear.
Councillor McNeil?
Thank you. I can, let's rescind that motion and amend and make a better motion. Okay, I move that council defer the new employee orientation to a future GMP meeting and bring back the following amendments. 1, change document owner from human resources to council. 2, to add department section in the header. And 3, to bring the administrative changes recommended in the RFD.
Discussion on that motion? Not seeing any, I'll call the question. Councillor St. Martin?
Mr. Reeve, friendly amendment, just for clarity. Should we add policy HR -7.004? You just stated the name of the policy,
Yes,
which
so
didn't have the word policy.
thank you. I'll accept your friendly amendment to add policy HR 7.004.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion on the amended motion? Call the question, all in favor? Let's move. 7.2, HR -7.003 payment of salary and wages.
So this one is very similar to the previous one. We'd like to defer this one with basically Councillor McNeil's motion for this one as well. Some of the titling in there, for example, is it's not current practice. We do split between salaried and hourly, and so some other changes we'd like to make in there. There is the use of shall a little bit through there, which is prescriptive and not provide any option. So we would like to defer that one, make some amendments and bring it back to GMP.
Thank you. Discussion on Councillor McNeil.
Sure, through the chair to council and administration. I was looking at this and would be wanting to support option 2, which was that council retains full control. I definitely support and understand that it needs to be updated and some changes need to be made, but I would like to make sure that council retains the authority over changing anything to do with payroll. Particularly, like for example, if we end up putting in procedure, when payrolls happen, like that's something that really could have some effect by policy. So it's some of those kind of things that I wouldn't wanna see us delegate that into a procedure and then have it come back that somebody made a decision that we go to a monthly payroll, for example. So that's the kind of stuff that I would wanna make sure that by doing this, if we retain the full control. And if anybody has any further discussion, if not, I'm prepared to make a motion.
I just feel that we have our employee, we have his contract, I believe, and that this is for me as one counselor, but we have people in HR and administration, it's their job to manage and control the new onboarding, their contracts and the scope of their pay and how that works. I don't personally believe the council needs to have full control over that point. I think for me, we're getting too far in the weeds. Councillor St. Martin and Councillor McNeil.
I guess it's the same comment that I had for the previous policy, that we changed the header where the document owner is council and we insert the department header. I'd like to see that. I think that gives council the authority, it's their policy. So when the policy comes to the next regular council meeting or GMP, if there are components that are in, I would hope that we would see the procedure as well. If there's components that are in the procedure that is felt it should be in the policy, we could address it at that time.
Councillor McNeil.
Okay, and just speaking back through to administration, on the policy portion versus procedure, I'm not suggesting that we're setting wage rates or anything like that. Strictly the policy regarding how payrolls are made and so on, that is consistent with administrations across municipalities. Like that's definitely a policy driven data. So for that, I'd be prepared to move that council defer adoption of policy HR 7.003, payment of wages and salaries, and direct administration to return with a revised policy that retains detailed payroll requirements within council policy, updated to reflect current systems, practices, and applicable legislation, with the addition of changing the title document owner to council, and number 2, adding a department in the header.
Just speaking to the motion, Mr. Ferris, I do have a question, or our HR. Again, reading what's written for option 1 and for option 2. With option 2, if there's legislative changes or anything that come up, it ties your hands. You don't then have the authority to just amend to be, and let it needs to come to Paul or to council to, for approval. I'm just looking for that clarification, because what I'm reading here in option one, it obviously gives you that leeway that if there is legislative changes that need to be addressed, you have the ability to do it in a short, timely or order fashion. If we go to option two, my understanding reading this, and it needs to come before council before we can make any of those administrative, so it could be a long time before, you know, a change is actually implemented.
Yeah, that's correct. With our current procedure, it'll be at least 30 days. Because it would have to go to GMP plus a council meeting. So you're looking 30 to 45 days before a change to bring us into legislative compliance.
Thank you. Councillor Dean speaking to the motion.
Yeah, through the chair, just speaking to the motion. I'm not in favor of this motion. I'd be in favor of option one, coming back to GMP, reviewing the administrative procedures, as Councillor St. Martin said, to have an opportunity to see if we want to revise the policy that's presented in front of us at the time and merge a few things, but right now I can't answer that question, and I think GNP is the right venue to have that discussion. So I'd be in favor of option two. I know option one. I know option two is on the table, but I won't be voting in favor of it.
Councillor Coogan speaking to the motion.
Yeah, through the chair to administration, I would really like to have an understanding of what type of legislation changes would affect and how quickly they would affect, you know, any decisions you make procedurally. And, you know, that would create a lot more clarity, and I would probably support option one more because I don't have that information.
Okay, Councillor McNeil.
Speaking to the motion and hearing council, I would be prepared to amend my motion for motion two to bring it back to a GMP as opposed to bringing it to council. And I think that would give the opportunity to meet the concerns that you guys have mentioned, while also kind of hopefully saving administration some time in that not stripping the legislative requirements out of it, for example, because when it comes to the legislation requirements and changes in legislation, I feel those are always things that should come back to council. And we have, for example, a legislation change on FOIP that was made in June of 2025, that we still have lots of policies that have not come back to us yet to correct that. And I think there's a lot of legislation changes that can be made that aren't affecting the the critical nature of something like this. And because this is dealing with payroll, and it is something that's of a critical nature for our staff, then I want to make sure we retain those legislative requirements. So that being said, I would move to amend my motion to include GNP rather than council.
Councillor Dean.
Speaking to the motion, option two does not contain the language establishing governance expectations for payroll and for administration, and delegates detailed, I have apple in my mouth, detailed payroll processes to admin procedures. And so to me, they're two different things. I understand where you're going, but I think option one and two are not exactly the same at all. And I think option one provides a broader amount of information that'll come back for us to review.
Okay, and I just also want to note Councillor Wright is joining us online. With that, I'm gonna call the question. All in favor for option two, the amendment to come back to GNT? Opposed? Okay, that is defeated. Thank you, Councillor Wright. Somebody wants to make Councillor St. Martin?
I'll try and make the motion. That council defer adoption of policy HR-7.003, payment of wages and salaries. To include the document owner as counsel, to insert department in header, and to include administrative amendments to be presented at the next Governance and Priorities Committee meeting.
Any councillor discussion on that motion? Mr. Ferris?
Just the next GMP meeting is next week.
Oh.
And just having it done in 2 days may be a little bit difficult.
Okay, I can amend that to the June policy and
But
priorities.
even if it's April, even if it's May, that's entirely fine, it's just we won't be able to do it in 2 days.
And then my motion to reflect May Governance and Priorities Committee meeting.
Thank you, councillor. Any discussion on the motion? Councillor Dean?
Through the chair, just clarification, so Councillor St. Martin's motion does not mimic option one with the two clerical changes. So within that motion, will administration bring all of the documentation that council is looking for? So the details of administrative guidelines, the potential for legislative impacts, etc.
So the way I interpreted the motion from Councillor St. Martin was that council defer the policy to include document owner, council, department header, and the administration recommendations. So the administration recommendations within that motion state to direct administration to return with a high-level policy that establishes governance expectations for payroll administration and delegates detailed payroll processes to administrative procedure aligned with the current systems, practices, and applicable legislation. So that's the recommendation, that's the rest of the motion.
And speaking to the motion, councillor McNeil?
Speaking to the motion, wondering if you would accept a friendly amendment, Councillor St. Martin, to remove high-level policy. So when it comes to policy, policy is council policy. There is no high-level and low-level policies, so I think that's something that should be removed.
Yeah, I'll accept the amendment.
Any further discussion on the motion? Not seeing, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. 7.3, sorry, HR 7.017 court leaves.
So on this one, GNP recommended to change to the new format again and fix some amend agenda references that were included in the existing policy, which is attached in your package. And we'd further recommend that this policy be further updated, improving the administrative or documented guidelines, make it a more fulsome information and include responsibilities in there as well. As an example, if is there documentation that has to be provided to the employer if summons is received? You know, what happens if you get summoned for a non-official capacity? Those kind of things we'd like to codify a little bit better.
Thank you. Discussion, councillor McNeil?
Thank you. Through the chair to administration. Just to note, in here, the ask was to amend and correct the gender reference, and there was actually two, so only one has been corrected. So at the end of clause 1, there is another one to be corrected there that's to add, and also on this one, if we could add council as the document owner, I guess, when we look for these amendments. Specifically, sorry, it was under clause 1 of the guidelines at the last sentence.
Any other discussion from council? Councillor St. Martin?
I can pass the first motion, that council rescinds policy 1962-09 court leaves.
Speaking to the motion?
Speaking to the motion, the ask from administration was to defer this to GNP for further revision. And if we wouldn't be able to rescind a policy and then have no policy in the meantime.
Mr. Ferris?
So I can speak to that. So changing the gender references, including the one that we missed. Our policy would still be in compliance. Now, the comments from David are absolutely right. We do think it could be flushed out more. However, the direction was to make a minor change. And that minor change doesn't invalidate the policy. So we can do it either way. We can do it at either the option of where we rescind, adopt and direct us to amend it, then we're kind of duplicating the work. But at least then the gender pronoun issue won't be an issue should a female colleague need to go on jury duty. It would at least be then covered.
Ken speaking to the motion.
Thank you. So just to clarify, then the ask is to rescind, adopt, and defer. So 3 separate motions.
If you'd like us to make it better, which we think it can be, that would be the best way to immediately address the policy issue that was identified.
Any other discussion on Councillor St. Martin's motion? Seeing any, I'll call that question. All in favor? Thank you, Councillor Wright. That's moved. Second motion, Councillor McNeil.
Go ahead and move that council adopt policy HR 7.017, court leaves with the following amendments. Correct the gender reference at the end of clause 1, add council as the document owner, add a department section to the document.
Thank you, Councillor. Discussion on that motion? Seeing any, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's moved. Third motion then to do we need it with if we're making the amendments, do we still need the third one?
I think if council wishes to have a revised version beyond the amendments, a motion requesting administration bring back an improved court leave policy to the May GMP would be sufficient.
Okay, Councillor McNeil.
Just through to council and administration, I guess at GMP we've discussed setting priorities for some of the items that are coming back, so that's why I hesitate on this one. And we may have more emergent issues that need to come to GMP than, for that reason, I'm just wondering if we'd want to defer it at this time or deal with it at a GMP when we're setting priorities on the rest.
Councillor Dean.
Through the chair to council and administration, with respect to this policy as amended, I don't believe there's gonna be significant discussion. I think we could just bring it back to a council meeting, just like it is here with the amendments.
Mr. Harris.
Quite honestly, with the way this policy is written, there's plenty of ground for us to handle it administratively as a procedural level. You've authorized our staff to go in specific circumstances. It's up to me to administrate that procedurally, whether it be forms, paperwork, that sort of thing. So honestly, if you leave it at this, we will implement a procedure within the next quarter to address those issues that are in compliance with the intent of this policy, but keep you out of situations that aren't really gonna be used.
Good with that.
Okay, so I guess we can move on. 7.4 human resource policies.
So on these ones, it was to move into the new template and then provide these ones for information. With no changes made, sorry.
Councillor Dean.
Through the read, so obviously we need to change the document owner and add a department. Other than that, I see no problem with them.
Anything else from council? Councillor Dean.
Oh, so I get the long one, awesome. So I'll move the council receive the following new formatted policies for information, and then I'll add the amendment at the end. HR 7.015 unauthorized leaves, HR 7.016 probation, HR 7.018 vehicle use by staff, HR 7.019 reporting period, HR 7.020 payroll advances, and HR 7.021 education leave. All policies will have the following change, and that is document owner will be noted as council, and in the heading section a department will be added.
Okay, discussion from council. Councillor St. Martin.
Mr. Reeve through to Councillor Dean. So in your motion, did you state that to receive it for information?
No.
Okay,
Yeah,
so that isn't in there.
so I'd accept a friendly amendment to, I think I'm not sure what I said, council receive the following new format. Did I not say information? No, okay. Did I say approve the new?
I thought I heard information.
Can we,
Okay.
Mr. Reeve through to administration, can you read back Councillor Dean's motion, please?
The council received the following new formatted policies, and
Okay.
then you listed them all, I think for information is that
Sure, so the friendly amendment would be receive the following new formatted policies for information, and then the rest of the motion.
Councillor St. Martin.
So Mr. Reeve, through to Councillor Dean, if we're amending the policies, we wouldn't receive them as information. So, that council amend this friendly amendment, Mr. Reeve, that council amend the following new formatted policies, and you list the policies, and insert the document owner as council, and insert a section for department.
Okay, you accept the amendment?
I do.
Okay, amended motion on the floor, discussion on the amended motion. Make sure administration has that.
Yeah.
Okay, call the question, all in favor? Thank you, Councillor Wright, that's moved. Brings us to policy HS 3.001, health and safety.
So on this policy, the recommendation was to increase the or upgrade the boot allowance to $275 a year or $550 over 2 years, which is done, and to remove clause B that spoke about temporary, seasonal, or contract workers. So those changes have been made. The one thing I would say about clause B is it does create a bit of a two-tier system in our employee group. So we have temporary, seasonal, and a RAP student who would not receive any support for safety footwear, which can create sort of a side-by-side, I get it, you don't. Which can create some animosity with employees and can create some retention or recognition issues. Even with our seasonal people, a lot of these people are students coming out of school, and if it's, yeah, we'd love to have you come and work for us, but by the way, you have to flip out or pay out for boots, it does become, can become more difficult for them. So if we could keep clause B as is, even without an amended total for there would be preferred.
Councillor McNeil.
Thank you. Through the Reeve to council and administration. I think this was kind of an unintended consequence when I had recommended that we remove section B. Section B referred to contract workers. And I think what I see here is the concern is that we're lacking the definition of a seasonal part-time worker compared to a contract worker. So when I looked at it, seeing that we had a policy that stated we gave contract workers a boot allowance by CRA's definition, then anybody who contracts to us would then fall under that. So essentially, to clarify it, what I would be prepared to do, and based on whatever other discussion, would be to add definitions for a full-time employee, part-time / seasonal employee, and a contract worker, essentially showing that a contract worker doesn't apply to this policy. And revise the original policy clause 4B. So just to state part-time seasonal employee instead of contract employee. And to increase the amount in clause B from $90 and $180 to $125 and $250 respectively, because when I looked at the values for what we had increased and $90 hadn't changed a whole lot. So in recognizing those employees, it's pretty tough to find a pair of boots for something in that realm. And of course, to change the document owner to council and make that departmental change. So that's what I would be recommending.
Question to administration, adding, I guess, more people eligibility on the policy basis what we had in front of us when we had this come to our tax committee. We're already at a $10,000 increase in our budget line on boots over what we've been historically paying. What are we looking at, when we're adding extra people and, to a policy that's already been amended? Are we gonna be, it's gonna be more than 10,000, obviously, it's gonna be a budget line. Councilor McNeil?
Through the Reeve, and to administration for clarification. By stating these changes, it was my understanding that we would not be adding anyone extra compared to those that we had before. It would be simply correcting the unintended consequence of removing B and taking away a benefit that they already had.
So just as noted in the RFD, it's about 14 individuals. If you were to increase it to 125 as indicated, we're looking about $490 additionally to our budget, from the $90 that was already previously budgeted. So it's a $35 difference between each employee.
I would say, but my question was, though, that the policy that we have in front of us when we did our budget discussions was, the direction was to remove that line. So that line with the contract employees shouldn't have been, in consideration, and it is my opinion on the budget. So now we're adding this line back in, it was an unintended consequence, but we're adding more people to this, so that $10,000 that we increase the budget line on boots is obviously gonna go up then, is what I'm.
So the budget line hasn't been changed yet. The direction was simply from GMP, it was not from the tax and finance, and it was not from council. So we haven't adjusted, we haven't removed those contracted employees. We increased the budget during the discussions for the $10,000 to cover the increased boot allowance overall. But we hadn't anticipated a discussion to remove the contracted employees, so that hadn't been deducted.
That was the clarification I was looking for. Councillor McNeil?
Okay, if there's no further discussion, then I'm prepared to move that council rescind policy 1964-01, health and safety, and adopt policy. Do you need two separate motions for these? Sorry. One to rescind, so you do, okay. Then, first I'll make the motion that council rescind policy 1964-01, health and safety.
Thank you. Discussion of that from council? Not seeing any, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Okay.
Councillor McNeil?
Then the second motion, move that council adopt policy HS 3.001, health and safety with the following amendments. Number 1, add, and I can send these to you if you want, add definitions for full-time employee, comma, part-time / seasonal employee and contract worker. 2, revise the original policy clause 4B to state part-time / seasonal employee instead of contract employee. 3, increase the amount in clause 4B from $90 and $180 to $125 and $250 respectively. And 4, to change the document owner to council. And 5, to add department in the header.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion? Not seeing any, I'll call it, Mr. Ferris.
So just reviewing the policy based on those motions. When I look at the policy, I don't see the words full-time within the policy. It references permanent employees, so we would be applying a definition for a term that does not appear in the policy. I believe the minimal changes to ensure the motion is correct with the intent. I think it may just be better for us to define contracted employee as those that are seasonal and temporary. And so just the motion, if the motion was to amend to add a definition of contracted employee to address Councillor McNeil's concern, I think that's better than adding multiple, sorry for doing this, Peter. To address the concern on the definitions on that might be better than adding multiple. That way the direction is clearly add a single definition of contracted employee, reinstate clause B with the increase amounts, plus the formatting changes that have been a common theme today.
Councillor McNeil?
Thank you. Actually, it's a valid concern for the full-time versus permanent employee and that terminology. But what I would recommend is that I could modify my motion to change full-time employee to permanent employee to be consistent with the policy. But the term contract employee that's an oxymoron. So if you're a contractor, you're a contractor. If you're an employee, you're an employee. So they're two different things. So that's the reason that I want to make sure that we remove that conflicting terminology. So for that, I would amend my motion to permanent employee as opposed to full-time.
Okay, motion on the floor, discussion on the motion. Not seeing any, call the question, all in favor? Let's move, council reports, start with Councillor Whitten.
So March 27th, attended an Ag Service Board meeting here in Whitefoot. We went over some of the shelter belt program and had some good discussion on that, and that's in the works now for the 2027 budget. And last night, April 8th, I attended the Ag Society meeting in Fort Assiniboine, where they're in planning for the hoedown for this year and getting ready for the multiple weddings that they're gonna be hosting this year.
Any questions for Councillor Whitten? No. Councillor McNeil?
Awesome. All right, so on March 28th, I attended the Blue Ridge Spring Fling and just kind of want to give out a shout out to Councillor Wright and the community of Blue Ridge, and what a fantastic event that they had. So they had silent auction items, lots of silent auction items. The event was really well attended. They did hay rides, Minister Long attended as well. And Councillor Wright had her chicken bingo, so that she had donated. So it was a really great event, and also involved the fire department in Blue Ridge. They did a scavenger hunt and had their department involved. So it was a really great family event, and I was happy to attend with my granddaughter. So we had a lot of fun. And then the Alberta Agritourism Town Hall. I attended that event March 31st in Barrhead, and that was it was a very interesting event. What I had learned, so essentially, just with the growth of agritourism and the focus on some of the initiatives coming through Tourism Alberta and the supports that they're doing in that presentation. I had asked, actually, the meeting was held in the greenhouse, which was a fabulous venue for it, but it ended up, it was like seemed like the one day we actually got sunshine in the last 2 weeks. And it was a little bright to kind of see the screen, so for their presentation. So they had mentioned that they would hope to forward that presentation to us. So once they do, then I can send that through to council as well. And with Barrhead, they had also mentioned, so upcoming this on Saturday, they have their Country Living Expo, and that's going to be a trade show event. So on Saturday, I would highly recommend if anybody has the opportunity to get out there and check it out. And they seem to really be taking a different approach, and what they had kind of mentioned was they're really focused, made it a pillar of their strategic development to focus on rural living and attracting, people that are interested in that rural living and how that ties into their economic development. So they have some really interesting initiatives in there that I haven't seen from some of the other areas. So I was really happy to attend. And then yesterday had also attended the Whitecourt District Chamber of Commerce mixer. So as they had mentioned in their presentation earlier, really well attended. And it's been so nice to see over the last, I don't know, maybe 10 years probably I've attended these events, and the growth in the chamber and the excitement in the room at these mixers. So there's a lot of business engagement going back and forth. And it was really nice to be able to make some connections and share, some events that were happening in other areas with people that weren't aware of them. So definitely really good. And out of that, just wanted to throw out May 6th coming up is McAppy Day. And in our area, that's the funds that are raised with McAppy Day support our families here that use Ronald McDonald House. I know in the past I've had staff that their family had used Ronald McDonald House when a child was sick and so on, a really valuable area. So also there was an update from the Mayor Hiltz and the town. He had mentioned that the 2026 Economic Development Tourism Strategic Plan has been uploaded on their website, and also mentioned about an ECDEV project related to a 200-acre data center project in the town. So then other events, and I'm sure Reeve Cush had a great update as well, so I'll let him cover some of the items hit on there. And then just to throw out May 31st as well, the Garage had mentioned a Rolling Thunder event that they're hosting, so bringing motorcycles into town, like motorcycle rally. And I really appreciate what they had mentioned, that the admission cost for that was gonna be donated to Tennille's Hope, and that the silent auction items, they're doing a silent auction, so shout out anybody who wanted to donate silent auction items to their auction, please go see them. And that they were gonna be using the funding for the CT scanner project that they were donating directly to Repeat Boutique. So just a couple of events there, and some exciting times, and everybody's looking forward to spring, hopefully.
Councillor Coogan?
Just a question through to Councillor McNeil. We sent our executive director from the Growth Initiative there because we're now in the stages where we actually have something that we feel that we can offer to collaborate. And just what was your take on that presentation?
Absolutely. So actually, they had a really good presentation, and I did have in my notes here as well, and thank you for that, because I wanted to highlight what they had brought forward. This was a resiliency summit. So, and this resiliency summit series that was going to involve essentially all industry and be targeted for Fox Creek in October. So I thought it was actually a really good presentation. And one of the things I've really appreciated about that organization in the past is they seem to have the most forward motion on Indigenous engagement in our area, and involving and getting people at the table when we've had attended workshops and stuff like that. So that was a couple of key takeaways that I had taken from that presentation. And you might be able to mention more in the Resiliency Summit series. So thank you.
Any other questions for Councillor McNeil? Councillor Wright?
Okay, on March 28th, as Councillor McNeil mentioned, the Community League and Blue Ridge had their Spring Fling event. So thank you, Councillor McNeil, for attending. She helped volunteer and clean up afterwards, so that was greatly appreciated. And as she had said, Minister Long attended and had donated to our silent auction, so that was wonderful as well. And the community league, they raised about $3,500. That's not an exact, but approximately. So it's nice to see that some funds were raised to go back towards the maintenance of the community hall. Then on March 30th, I attended the Protective Services committee meeting. I didn't have my notes with me, but there was a lot of information we had gotten. I'll let Reeve Cush speak on most of that. The one thing I did want to highlight today that was a little alarming that I learned was the increase in crime in the ages 12 to 17. They were looking at like a 441% increase since the teen center had closed. So I really thought that was an alarming stat that people should know about. Then on March 31st, I attended the landfill committee meeting, and one of the highlights there was they had their new scale and pump house open, and that is operational. They were just doing the training and things were good to go. So that's all I had for this update.
Councillor, discussion from Councillor Wright. Councillor Dean.
I have a very light report. I attended the same Ag Service Board meeting that Councillor Whitten and Councillor Kulkin attended, and I did want to just elaborate a little bit on the idea of the shelter belt. So we received a presentation from a consortium of Barrhead County, Westlock County, and Athabasca, where their residents are able to participate in a shelter belt program. What we learned is there's a variety of ways that you could present that, variety of models, if you will, that you could present it to our residents. And we have some work to do to find out whether there's an interest. So we're considering conducting some public engagement polls just to see if there is an interest, and then try and get an idea on where the interest is coming from. You know, is it strictly an ag focused shelter belt, or is it gonna lend itself to all areas of the county? So that'll be a while incoming. But, and that was it. That was the only meeting I had in the last 2 weeks.
Thank you, Councillor. Discussion from Councillor Dean. Councillor St. Martin.
I as well had no meetings during that period of time. However, I did take the opportunity to dive deep into our interim 2026 operating budget, and also converse with administration on the Finance and Taxation Committee upcoming meeting, as well as our Community Services Committee agenda package, which for our meeting later today. And I'll be attending the Economic Development Conference next week.
Any discussion for Councillor St. Martin? Councillor Kukin.
Yeah, I attended the same Ag Service Board meeting on the 27th, and then after that I was gone till the 5th, I guess it was. So, but I did meet, we did meet as a growth board, which is very small now, to kind of finalize some of the things that we feel is necessary to look at what the future is. It's completely revised from the old RITAs, because we recognized a long time ago that they don't work, and it's becoming more apparent as they fall off the the RITA groups are becoming smaller and smaller. And so it's a slow process when you have, first of all, you're trying to do all of this work as a working board. You don't have any administrative capacity. But what we did, the direction we took was actually a direction that was that we paid for a business case study of what we need to do. And it was really interesting through the engagement sessions that we did. We took the steps to understand what the grassroots wanted, because there's a clear understanding that any of the initiatives that the provincial government has started and then pulled the funding away from failed, and that's across the board. And so the question that in our engagement sessions, the questions that came up were, You know, if we wanna really have true change, where does it need to come from? And it needs to come from collaboration and a collective view that is right across the board in the region, which means that we have to engage community futures, our tourism players, our industry players are huge. There's, you know, that's what we got from the ones that we brought to the table, was that, look, you guys, this is a connection that needs to be made that doesn't exist. And so the chambers would be involved in that. And the entire governance structure had to change, because the minute you have municipalities sitting as the key players there, there's that competition piece that comes in where they will try to dominate to get investment to come into their area. Whereas if you have a regional perspective, what ends up happening is the investment will land where it is probably best suited, because you have the data to support it. And the second thing is that the process of information goes out regionally, because we really found with the SMR that if we don't have that, we won't go anywhere with it. So this organization is shifting now into being more of that catalyst, where Resilient Futures is now identifying, for example, how does industry play in our local framework, and what things do we need to do to address those. The part that's really unique for growth is that we addressed the fact that if you don't have a social capital component in your strategic plan, your vision, your mission, then what ends up happening is that is excluding the grassroots. So it's going to be a journey. We're underfinanced, understaffed with ideas. Yeah, we need a lot more people. So what we're doing now is we're just throwing out all of the assets that we actually created. We have 3 engagement sessions. We did a social impact lab to understand the socio portion of our program. And so now we're going to go out, we're going to put it out there and say, you know, at the end of the day, if it's got to come from the grassroots, who's interested, what roles are they going to play, what does the governance look like? And this will become a regional organization, which will be in alignment with the business community and municipalities, indigenous communities as well. And hopefully we're going to present, I believe, to the Economic Development Committee on the 28th as a template. Here, have a look, and it'll be up to the Economic Development Committee to make recommendations or have a look at what possibilities there are.
Councillor St. Martin?
Through the Reeve to Councillor Clukin, the Social Impact Lab, was that held in the member communities or just in?
Yeah, and everyone was invited to that. We had that at Eagle River Casino. I think it was, there were 2 sessions that we had there, so.
Thank you.
Councillor Dean?
Through the chair, question to Peter. So currently your model, you've got 2 municipal partners,
Yep.
Swan Hills and Woodlands.
Woodlands is a question mark.
Okay, and is there any provincial funding at all?
No. The province has removed all of their funding from all of the RETAs. They're no longer going to fund them.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Any other questions, comments for Councillor Coogan? Councillor McNeil?
Through the chair to Councillor Coogan, just based on that, you have grant funding, though, is that correct, for the events?
Currently, yes, we have an NRED grant
Okay.
to put on this one Resilient Future Summit.
Okay.
Anything else for Councillor Coogan? Nope. I'll get to my update here. Start with the ASB. Unfortunately, I tried getting on the ASB virtually. I was in a breakfast meeting before that ran late, and I tried getting on, and about 40 minutes in, all I had was still a blank screen, couldn't hear anything, so I left a message that I was chiming off, and thank you for Councillor Coolcan though for getting hold of me after the meeting was done and giving me the updates on where they were, but I did try being part of that one. Unfortunately, there was just something on the technology side that wasn't jiving. Meeting I had before that though with a lot of the industry players, biggest one I'd like to highlight there is Blue Ridge Lumber. They were up and running, and at that point when Hardeep was giving us the update, they were already a couple of weeks ahead of their anticipated plan for operation. So everything seemed to have been running smoothly, everything was moving along, and they were, I said, very fortunate that it seems that they got a little bit lighter than they were anticipating. So good news for everybody, especially having everybody back to work in the area there and having did have the opportunity, I met with Ray for a breakfast meeting again, or a coffee meeting. We just kind of talk about a lot of things that we're doing kind of candidly off on the side, and there'll be a couple of those ideas I want to float by council here after. They might come to fruition, might not, but we'll talk about when we get into the closed session. Had the opportunity also with Ray at XM 105 to give the announcement for the Party in the Park coming up. It's June 19th and 20th. Two headliners are Carolyn Dawn Johnson. She's doing the country night on Friday and Prisms on Saturday. So I do know there's a lot of, I've been to Prism before. They put on a pretty good show. I'm sure there's a lot of fans in the area for that too. And yeah, it's always a great event, very well received from the community and even outside communities. So I'm again anticipating a big event there. April 25th coming up is going to be the Ensemble Spring Barbecue. I'm not sure if they have many tickets up or available still, but if anybody is interested, if you go to their Facebook page, it has links on how a person can get tickets for that. And we had the chamber, there's a chamber update yesterday. Again, lots of good area information on the events from the chamber that they host in the area and how Trunk or Treat seems to be one of the biggest between that one and the fair downtown as far as drivers for things coming, and still have some chamber people here, so thank you guys for putting that on and supporting that for the community. It's great to have, at least the outlets and whatever for especially for the youth. There's, we're seeing the numbers, the stats come out of Jenna's report there. It is nice to at least have something for them to do, especially with a lot of funding on a lot of other events and priorities are kind of scaling back. It makes it little harder to keep them occupied in their activities. So nice to see that going. And thank you for mentioning about the May 31st there. I do hope everybody shows up for it. I know there's a lot of when they have posters out, so I'll try to get something to administration. It's going to be an incredible event, I think, if we can get the number of people they're anticipating, and the fact that it is going to a CT scanner in the area. I would support anybody trying to advertise to get that event going. And they were saying that not only is it going to that, but the the donation fees or entry fees for anybody showing up with their bikes are going to Tennille's Hope. So it benefits the community all around. Other than that, that is what I had here. So if there's any other questions, comments? I'm not seeing any. If I can get a motion to accept the council reports. Councillor McNeil.
Sure, I'll move that council receive the council reports for information.
Thank you, councillor. Call that question. All in favor? Thank you, councillor Wright. Move to 11.
Break.
Can we, if we take the next one, we'll take a break before we go into closed session.
Sure.
11A, the Centre of Alberta Natural Area Trail Management Agreement.
Morning.
Good morning.
So, just a little bit of history with, before you guys, you have the RFD for the trail management agreement with the Alberta Parks and for the Centre of Alberta site. This agreement is important. It's an important step to strengthen our tourism portfolio and support the growing interest in rural tourism. The background with Alberta Parks presented to you guys a couple weeks ago, so you got to hear the exciting upgrades on the 3-kilometer walkway, as well as the improvements to the day use facilities at the Karen site, which is kind of exciting. The enhancements will significantly improve the visitor experience and increase the site's overall appeal. So I haven't had a chance to be out there yet, but I'm certain that from the pictures, it's gonna be a fantastic little area for everyone to visit. And why does this matter to Woodlands County? The Centre of Alberta is a unique landmark, and I think that the potential to draw visitors from across the region is an amazing opportunity. We could be centered in Alberta. It's kind of one of those things that nobody else can say that. So I think that that's a tourism initiative that, you know, I already have ideas to promote. So, and why is it important to be part of the trail manager agreement is to formalize our role and the expectations as with partnership. It strengthens our relationship with the Alberta Parks, as well as creating opportunities for collaboration and other joint development. It positions Woodlands County as a contributor to high quality regional attraction. The opportunity before you with the Centre of Alberta site can become a signature destination that benefits residents, businesses, and visitors. Tourism opportunity, as I mentioned, we are centered in Alberta. Once we are trail managers within the province, it opens opportunities for grants with Alberta Parks. And that is key for your decision today, because I know that this is one of those things that we're not guaranteed. And I want that to be clear for you guys when you're making the decision to be trail managers, that we have opportunity to apply. So we will be put on a really, you know, on top of the pile, but there's no guarantee. Today, I guess we're seeking that council support to move forward with the trail manager agreement and to apply for that. This will allow us to fully participate in development and ongoing management of the rec site, as well as partnership that we can elevate with Alberta Parks moving forward in planning. I'm open to any questions.
Okay, I'll start with Councillor Whitten and Councillor Dean.
So, through the Reeve. For this, so it'd probably be Fort Assiniboine that's looking after the area because it's closer, probably, right?
Through the Reeve, so our rec staff will be the ones taking care of the rec site through the trail management agreement.
From here, or would it be?
Yeah.
Yeah, from Whitecourt going up there, okay. And would we have to buy, like Woodlands County, do they have to buy any other equipment to maintain the trail, or do we have like the side by side and stuff like that already to
So
maintain?
the idea behind I guess the process of learning a new site and seeing what's there, we do have a contingency. We did put $30,000 into the budget, knowing that the first year might be questionable, but the side by side from Fort Assiniboine will be borrowed for the use of that site, as well as just our rec staff will just be turning the corner and going towards Centre of Alberta from the other sites they take care of in Fort Assiniboine as well as down that highway.
Okay, Councillor Dean and Councillor St. Martin.
Through the chair, thanks, Steve. Just wanted to clarify what you said about the application process. You said that we'd kind of like make the short list or be on top of the pile. Are there other applicants looking to be the trail manager for this, or the process that you're describing, does that mean province-wide there's all kinds of other applications to the Trail Act?
So through the chair, the idea is we're the only ones that the Alberta Parks has approached so far. I'm hoping that we would be the ones, because it's clearly within our area, the obvious ones to take care of the site. And as far as the grants, that changes year to year with Alberta Parks. So they're saying that they can't guarantee year after year we'll get that grant funding, but we will definitely be applying and submitting our grant proposals.
Thank you.
Councillor St. Martin and Councillor Coogan.
Mr. Reeve through to Tina. In the agreement, it's retroactive to February 1st, 2024. Do you know why?
Yeah, through the Reeve. So that's a sample agreement. When we work on the agreement together, they'll put in their proper dates. That's just showing dates that are non-existent at this point.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Reeve through to Tina, again, throughout the agreement, and I raised this when the department was here making the presentation, there is use of the term society. So I would like to ask administration that maybe you clarify that with the province, because it just doesn't make sense. One of the areas it refers to the society and indemnity. I presume that's meant for the municipality rather than a society. So thank you.
Mr. Ferris?
Just, thank you for noting the society aspect. In looking at the comment at the draft template, there isn't anything that we think is insurmountable in changes. The one question too that I have is the agreement doesn't really state what happens if the province takes it back and we've invested new assets, and those are things to me that are very important. If we're going to do that, we should be able to recoup those taxpayer dollars. And so there's a bunch of areas that definitely do need some further discussions and sit downs with the province. Overall though, the biggest issue that we have is we wanna point out that there's no guarantee in the funding. That's why we even budgeted the $30,000 this year. I would hope you would get the funding. The first year they're trying to give you a new asset, but you can't always guarantee it. But we do think for the rec program, it's definitely an asset for the county. And I would say in its current status, prior to them repairing the trail, it looked like it was mismanaged by Woodlands County. Even though we had no part of it, there were signs from Woodlands County up there marking the trail. They were all deteriorated and rotten, and it was not a fun, by default it became our asset for some reason, and I think at least having this agreement ensures that we can uphold it to our standard, which I believe is higher than the province's.
Councillor Coogan?
Yeah, through the chair to Tina. First of all, as councillors, it's gonna become a little bit easier for us to, when we're asked where Woodlands County is. That's a big thing. The other part of it is what you were saying about funding. I know that Travel Alberta's initiatives have been to switch to the north. And so I think that we have a way better position because there's an interest of spending more money on tourism north of 16 rather than where it's being spent now. So that's a good thing. The other thing is that it's my understanding that any capital things there will be the province's responsibility. We would just be the trail managers.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Councillor McNeil?
Thank you, through the chair to administration. I guess a question I'd have first is, so $30,000 estimated, the intent of that then was to cover annual expenses, $30,000 annually, and then if that was the case, I'm curious what the anticipated grant catch would be,
So through the chair, in the RFD, it says 22,000, I based that on the 2025 very similar rec site that we would have to go and clean. And so that's the anticipated dollar amount, and we put $30,000 in last December without those numbers. Not that we were guessing, but we were definitely trying to do a guesstimate. And then when we crunched the numbers after 2025 was done, it came to that $22,000. So I think that that's probably more a realistic number, and that would be the number we would be applying to.
Okay, and just as a follow-up, I guess, my other question would be, and in light of us looking at a tax increase this year, my concern, I guess, is what would be the ramifications, or is it possible to defer this for a year, realizing that somebody else may step in to be the trail master in the interim?
Sure, they would look for another group to maintain the site if Woodlands County chooses not to.
Do we have a timeline for that?
Not at this point, no.
For clarification though, this 30,000 is already in our approved interim budget. Councillor Dean?
I was just prepared to make a motion
Okay.
and then we can speak to it, I guess, so I'd move that council authorize administration to finalize and execute a trail manager agreement with the province of Alberta for the Center of Alberta Natural Area to the satisfaction of the chief administrative officer and within approved budget.
Any discussion on the motion? Councilor St. Martin?
Mr. Reeve through to Councillor Dean, or to the CAO, do we need to be specific about the changes in society terminology?
No, we will make sure that it's in there, and then we also have a list of other changes, but rather than go into the details, we didn't bring them forward, so
Thank
it'll
you.
be included.
Any further to the motion? Not seeing any, I'll call the question, all in favor? That's moved. And with that, it is 11 o'clock, we'll take a 10-minute break. You let us know when we're off, and we'll be back at 10 after 11.